All right, welcome back to another episode of Just Buy Less Coffee, answering the deeper questions of American politics. My name is Troy, aka Keep Troy Blue. With me, as always, is Cathy Cannon, aka Cannon's Fodder. We have a great show today. Jimmy Carter passed away. Cathy, man, did he hold out? Wow.
Dude, I was so sad. Like,
Yeah, that is
he's
very
such a good
sad.
man. But at the same time, and I made a video to this effect. I think you saw it. But like, I'm kind of glad he died now. One, because woof, was he looking rough. Like
Yeah,
he
100
was
years old.
100 years old, and he's
One
had brain cancer for
in the
5
Century Club.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the oldest living president ever, all of this stuff. But I was glad that he died now, like while Biden was still in office, really, because
Yeah.
Donald
Yeah.
Trump, you already see he would not have honored his legacy or his memory. He's already bitching about the flags being at
I know.
half-staff. Like,
I don't think
so
he understands why. I think he was just bitching about it because he thought it was like some sort of conspiracy.
I'm sure he
Uh,
knows why now, but I guarantee you he didn't know why prior to
he's
now.
like,
Like,
wait,
he
what?
learned of this federal law only now. But yeah, he's basically, his first act of president is going to be to snub federal law in the honoring of a former president. Like,
Yeah.
we're in
Well, he
for a
shit all.
ride.
I was surprised Ron Filipkowski took issue with with Trump's tweet on it, but I actually thought it was like for Trump, it was actually incredibly respectful. Like he actually said something nice about Carter because he's been shitting all over Jimmy Carter for years. Jimmy Carter, favorite target of the
Right-wing Looney
Republicans and
Tunes.
the right wing for decades.
Yeah.
But does he get a state? Do presidents get a state funeral just automatically? Like, will he lay in state in
They're
Congress,
entitled to one,
or it's
and
up
they're
to the family or
entitled,
whatever?
yeah, like, well, because like your last, like, the way you handle your death is very much and should be up to you, right? But
Oh
as
yeah,
a president, he's allowed
he's also a
to be
veteran,
buried in
so
Arlington as well, I believe.
yeah.
And he's not going to be. He's going to be buried next to Rosalind in Plains, Georgia, which is
Oh, I'm
what I love
sure.
so much about Jimmy Carter. Like, he stayed humble through everything. And like, it's very, like, I think, credible to say that his humility was his undoing. He was too good
Yeah,
a man to be a good politician. And even though that's like the accepted narrative of him, I do think he was a good president. Like, I understand why his legacy is such that we deem him like a good person but a bad president, but it's because his presidency was like a watershed moment, right? Like, it was like
yeah,
a crossroads of America in much the same way that FDR's was in 32. You know, you can go this way to a forever aristocracy, like poor versus rich version of America, or you can go toward the New Deal and dignity and humanity for all Americans, right? Now, was it perfect?
right.
No, but was it revolutionary for its time? Of course it was. 1980, that election was another one. Like, Jimmy Carter winning in 76 was normal, right? Like, Gerald Ford wasn't exactly winning hearts and minds. Richard
Gerald
Nixon
Ford
had
was going
trashed.
nowhere.
Yeah, Richard Nixon had like trashed the reputation of the Republican Party, and Jimmy Carter was perfect. He was a Southern Democrat. He was a freaking peanut farmer turned pastor or preacher's son or something, right? Like, he had everything. Okay.
Navy
But
veteran.
then,
Nobody ever talks about his military service. He was a veteran.
I
He
know
was,
he was a Navy
yeah,
veteran too. And like, he became president and had the audacity to be a good man as president. And
yeah,
like, he was
yeah.
miles ahead of his time. And like, that's what I'm kind of anticipating happening in the next few weeks, because as like all of the tributes to him and history of Jimmy Carter starts coming up, I've already had like old students saying, Ms. Cannon, did you know this about Jimmy Carter? And I respond with, why do you think the fires of rage for Ronald Reagan that are in my soul exist as they do? Of course I knew all of these things. Like, Ronald
Yeah,
Reagan taking out Jimmy Carter put us on this path to
yeah.
this version of
It
America.
was,
Had Jimmy
yeah,
Carter won that election, we would all have solar panels on our house already, because in 1978, I think he put solar panels on the White House and committed to renewable, cleaner energy. 50
yeah.
years ago, guys.
Well,
50
he
fucking
committed.
years
I
ago.
mean, he committed to a lot of things. I mean, his legacy was undone by Reagan, to be sure. And Reagan, Carter was handed a really, really shitty deck of cards. Like Carter
Every
came
Democrat
in.
is always handed a shitty deck of cards that we have to clean up.
Carter came in. The economy was awful, absolutely awful. Our place in the world had never been lower coming out of Vietnam. Our sense of ourself was destroyed coming out of Nixon and Watergate. Nobody trusted the government. We had the church hearings on the CIA. Everybody finally learned about all the terrible things that the CIA and the FBI were doing, during the Cold War. Everybody just felt like crap. Carter, I think his only issue was that he just wasn't he wasn't a great communicator. And that's why Reagan won, because Reagan had the swagger, the charisma. But in terms of just raw presidencies, Carter was just obviously, like, Carter was such a better president than Reagan. Reagan fucked up so many things, had so many scandals. All of the problems that we're currently dealing with are as a result of the Reagan presidency that would not have happened if Carter had won that reelection in 1980, in theory.
Yeah.
But they love to shit all over Jimmy Carter. Like it was so we had this revelation about Nixon. All of a sudden nobody trusted the government anymore. Carter comes in and he's the type of president that everybody thought that presidents were before Nixon. Like back in everybody thought that presidents were these like honorable men who just cared about public service. Usually that was bullshit, but for Jimmy Carter it was true. But at that point everybody was so jaded because of Richard Nixon, nobody believed him, and it just came off like an act, I guess.
Yeah, I know. I think like Jimmy Carter's failure as a president, and this is going to sound really bad, was that he thought too highly of the American people. Right?
Yeah.
Like if you remember.
He was brilliant, and he assumed people were brilliant. He assumed the Americans were smart and could figure shit out, and they really couldn't. They really could not.
Well, not only that, but he just assumed that Americans were good people who would do things for the collective good, because that's who he was, right? Like during the energy crisis, where he like did a presidential address wearing his cute little like Mr. Rogers cardigan, right? Was basically like, there's so many things going on. It's so complicated to bring energy prices, but we all together can turn the thermostat down, put a sweater on in the house, right? Like he was asking
to ask Americans to sacrifice. Yeah.
Like he that was his downfall. Like Ronald Reagan was here. I can give you all sorts of like empty promises and get rich quick schemes, where Jimmy Carter is like, if we work together, we can solve the problems of the world. Guess which ones America's went to? Like Jimmy Carter counted on the American people to do what all of Europe did during World War II. Every citizen, like when you're in a stage of total war, everybody is involved. That's like what you do in your home to help the country, what you do in your life to help the country. And Jimmy Carter asked Americans to do that. Said, I want you to step up and turn down the thermostat and wear a sweater. I want you to, start recycling things. I want you to like put an eye toward conservation in the future. He asked Americans to sacrifice instant gratification for long-term prosperity. And Americans went, fuck that. Credit cards sound fun. And here we are.
Yeah. Man of peace, really trying to shift the focus of U.S. foreign policy back to human rights. Away from what it had become ever since World War II. Won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002 for his work as president and for his great work after president, which is again why most people want to talk about. He was a great man. Great man after his presidency. And then of course there was the Iran stuff, the Iran hostage stuff, which I know you have thoughts on. Reagan using that to his advantage. Carter did the bulk of the negotiating on that one, and Reagan
got none of the credit.
Probably committed treason. Like
no, undoubtedly committed treason. They've come out and owned it at this point. Like he was suspected of having committed treason for 40 years. And then when homeboy thought Carter was like on his way out the door 2 years ago, by the way, he was like, I feel like I need to fess up to this. We were totally shit. And it got no coverage at all at the time because the commitment to protecting the legacy of Ronald Reagan is
astounding.
Astounding is a good word, right? But the other thing about Carter, miles ahead of his time, this guy, like he was so fucking brilliant because he called Israel. Like he said, this is what is going to happen in Israel. If they stay committed to denying the sovereignty of the Palestinian people, they will turn into a tyrannical apartheid state that commits genocide.
Yeah.
Boom. boom. And he lived to see it. Is the worst part, is that he had to live to see it. But I am glad that he checked out before he gets to see,
It's so
what's
depressing. I
coming.
really hope, the biggest thing, the big thing was that he lived long enough to vote for Kamala, and that was his like sort of final wish, and he achieved
That's like,
that.
yeah, that's like my favorite thing to say to the girls now in school when they start bitching about boys. And I was like, look, Jimmy Carter put off dying for a woman. If he wanted to, he would.
Oh.
He wanted to, he would. And they look at me, they're like, damn, miss. I'm like, am I wrong?
I don't know. I kind of hope they just lied to him and told him that Kamala won the election. I hate the fact that he waited to see how that turned out, and it went so poorly for him. I really hate the idea that like his last thoughts were about Trump coming into the White
I
House, but
think,
I don't know. I mean, I think
depending on like your views of the afterlife and all of that stuff. And I realize I'm Catholic, so I'm like very much treading into witchcraft territory. Like, why would I have been burned alive for what I'm about to say?
Oh,
Because
you would
if
have
you
been burned
believe,
in several lifetimes.
every single one. They like keep sending me back, I think, until I get it right, and I have yet to. But that's kind of the point. Like, having dealt with death as much as I have in my life, which is a weird thing to say. I'm not going to lie. Like, I understand that it sounds very macabre of me to say that, but I had to struggle with figuring out how to process people dying at a very young age, which means I had like a lot of different versions of it in my head. But my current belief is that we are all made of stardust, right? And it's
Scientifically,
sort
that's
of like
accurate. Yeah.
to the biblical, like ashes to ashes, dust to dust kind of thing. So Jimmy Carter has left this world, which means that his stardust is no longer in his body. His stardust is in the world. And like the way
That's
I've always
poetic.
coped with like losing my friends is that like they don't exist all together with all of their stardust in form anymore. Their stardust is everywhere in the world now. And those moments that you live in your life that make you remember the person that you lost is their stardust. It
Oh,
is
that's
them.
very
Like
sweet.
it is them, right? Like when you meet somebody that reminds you of somebody, it's the stardust of that person bringing them into your life, right? So
Interesting.
my only thinking that, yeah, it was very comforting at 14 because like when somebody would do something, I'd be like, that made me think of them. I'd be like, hi, Carolina. Like it's
Yeah.
just been how I deal with it, right? Like after my grandfather died, I'd be like, Granddad, I need some help. Like so I can like, it's very Catholic to talk to your dead loved ones, but like whatever. So my thinking is that when Donald Trump won the election, Jimmy Carter realized, he goes, well, my vote wasn't enough, so my stardust is going to work. So he
Ah.
left this world so that the goodness of Jimmy Carter is now everywhere. And hopefully it will land on enough Americans to save America. That's my hope.
Yeah.
Is that like the spirit, and like I've kind of seen it a little bit, like as like especially younger people are learning more about Jimmy Carter and seeing, oh shit, because the problem is that they've only kind of seen the Trump era, so they think this is what politics is, like this is normal to them because like it's all they've seen.
That's
But
horribly
if they
depressing, by the way.
right, and but if they can start to see a president like Jimmy Carter and the things that he did, and way back then, 50 years ago, he was supporting the stuff they're asking for right now. That could be what he's doing. Like maybe he left this world and he's going to land on the kids and give all of their anger some direction.
I hope so. Would
So
much
too.
prefer Jimmy Carter's stardust landing on everybody when, as opposed to whatever's coming out of Trump landing on everybody in the
I
United
do
States.
too. So I think he and Rosalind are in the heavens now.
77 years married? My God, that alone. Give the man a medal for
I
that. My
know.
God,
But that's what I
that's a
think.
beautiful
I think
marriage.
Uncle Jimmy and Aunt Rosalind are going to be in heaven directing the stardust to protect
You know,
Americans. First,
they
he's going to go get really drunk with Jesus because I guarantee you Jimmy Carter and Jesus would be best friends.
if anyone exemplified what it is to be a Christian, happy Feast of the Epiphany, by the way. My little Catholic friend over
It's
here.
technically
If any,
tomorrow, but still.
well, yeah,
Like it's the 6th of
Epiphany
January.
Eve. I'm not Catholic. I don't know what's going on. If there's
Well, it
anyone
would
who
be at midnight
exemplified
where
what
the
it,
star, yeah.
that actually exemplified what it is to be a Christian, it was Jimmy Carter. But yeah, they
His
don't see it.
initials were even
They'll never see it.
JC.
Yeah. If there's anyone who would know Jesus personally, it was Jimmy Carter. So,
Yeah, actually, I'll see if I can. I didn't write a lot, but I wrote something like when Jimmy Carter died into my little journal. Would everybody like Cathy to read like a page from her journal where she wrote on reflections of Jimmy Carter?
Sure.
It's very short. It's very
We're
short.
eulogizing. We're eulogizing here. Go ahead. Great
Also, I feel
president,
like
man. I'm like incredibly underrated president. It just pisses me off the legacy of Jimmy Carter went south
all
only
right.
because of Reagan.
Yeah. So I'm going to read it word for word. I honestly don't remember what I wrote because it's like that's kind of how my journal works. December 29th, 2024, Jimmy Carter has died. He was 100 years old. He was the crossroads of America, and thank God it will be Biden to preside over his funeral. Could you
Yes.
imagine? I've long said that I know all I need to know of a person by how they feel about Jimmy Carter. He was a truly good man, the closest to holy I can think of on this earth. But ask some people, mainly the ones who loudly proclaim themselves Christians, to them, they think of him as the devil, which is wild. But maybe his death will be a resurrection of sorts. Not a literal one, but in remembering him and seeing who we could have been compared to who we are, could maybe the human in our country come back from our bender as consumers.
Nice. I like it.
So we've been on a 45-year bender of consumerism, but could Jimmy Carter make us human again? Where we care about people other than ourselves, so where we care about something other than the new latest thing, where we are willing to sacrifice for the greater good. That's what I wrote.
Jimmy Stardust. Yep.
Jimmy
Good job.
Stardust. Oh, we should start it. We should make t-shirts that say Jimmy Stardust, and it'll be like a thing that we know, and that's how we know we're working for the greater good. Jimmy Stardust. I'm just working on Jimmy Stardust.
Yeah, there you go. Some more United Healthcare assassination stuff. Speaking of just the work of God or whatever. Your man Luigi. Yeah, here we go. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? On this, Cathy? So I guess the trial is starting. Karen Friedman Agnifilo is his attorney. That's kind of fun. That's a little my disconnection there.
And apparently she's quite the baller ass lawyer from what I'm understanding.
She's a boss lady, man. Like you don't fuck with KFA, not at all.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I think the world is waking up a little bit, like the class consciousness. It started like right away when like the right-wing talking heads started going on and trying to like, paint him as a villain, and like Ben Shapiro, like Matt Walsh, like all of their like in their comment sections. Yeah, they were all like, hold up, man. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're just trying to keep us angry. Like, we like what this guy did, right? The contrast I want to talk about here is that you've heard about like the 70,000 men on a Telegram chat thing, right? Where they're just basically this gigantic group chat of like, how can we kill women for funsies?
Yeah, there was that happened.
That didn't get a terrorism charge, right? That didn't get they're charging him with terrorism, and this is the part that makes me the most mad, because you and me both remember like the terrorism craze post 9/11, right?
How is it terrorism?
How is it terrorism? Exactly. Like I made like a video about this on TikTok. I was like, look, like the terrorism is defined as something that is done to instill fear in a people. The only people who are afraid
CEOs
right now,
afraid is terrorism.
So CEOs are afraid that they'll have to face the consequences of their evil. So you're going to charge Luigi with terrorism. Meanwhile, the incoming president committed an insurrection against the country, and there was no terrorism charge. These men in the group chat jokingly talking about murdering women, totally fine there. But one guy allegedly shoots one rich guy. Nobody in the world cried, and he gets a terror charge. I think this is fucked up. I think.
What's his defense? We're still super early. Does he have it? He's pled not guilty. Is he trying to say that he didn't do it? Is he going to try and say he didn't do it?
I'm actually very curious as to what their defense strategy will be.
It's KFA, baby. She's gonna lock it down. But whatever they do.
But I think like they're gonna keep it close to the chest, so it works, like Cochran style. I don't know, Jimmy Cochran style. But here's what I say:
what if she gets him off? What if he's acquitted? Oh, oof!
I hope she does.
Everybody hopes she does. Yeah,
because OJ got away with it. Actually, I have theories on that. I think it was his son, but that's a whole podcast episode for another day.
Well, that's a whole book about that. But yeah.
But yeah, I think he has opened the eyes of a lot of people and has pointed the conversation toward what it needs to be is just wealth inequality in and of itself, but also how at the will Americans are to shareholders, how life and death decisions of Americans are completely contingent on earnings reports, that we as people, human beings walking around, to the powerful people in the country making the big powerful decisions and influencing the levers of government, see you as nothing but a profit margin.
Yeah.
I think that is a lesson Americans needed to learn. And I think it will be made all the more clear when people who voted for the billionaire real estate tycoon because they can't afford a house realize that a billionaire real estate tycoon is not going to help you buy a house.
It's absolutely fucking hysterical to me that these people continue to see Republicans as the party of the working class, or continue to see their own movement as the party of the working class. Like Trump's cabinet is like 90% billionaire. Like there's more billionaires running our government. The billionaire, we basically are entering into a system of oligarchy. We'll get into Elon Musk stuff a little bit later, but we are introducing the new American oligarchs, and these fucking MAGA still that are living on 40K a year still think they have more in common with the billionaires than they do with Democrats.
Yep.
And Luigi was rich. Luigi was like a northeastern, like Connecticut rich family, yeah.
Well, it's the false consciousness of the American dream, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
Is the American dream is supposed to be that if you work hard, blah, 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 you get this like great life, right? And it's convinced people to behave in a way that will benefit future them, not current them. They're convinced that if they keep working hard, that they will be rich and successful one day. So they vote for their future rich and successful self. So when I make a lot of money, I don't want anybody taking it away from me. So I'm going to vote to have people with money keep their money because I want to keep my money when I get it, right? Like, because they're imagining themselves as successful. But then when they don't become successful, and they're in their middle ages now, all the like crazy angry white guys who had believed like I'm voting for Republicans because when I'm rich they'll take care of me, then they never got rich and they somehow still blame Democrats for it. Somehow I don't understand, but they feel conned because they were conned, but they keep voting for the con artists because
I don't think they're that deep anymore. I used to think that. I don't think they're that deep. I think they're people that peaked in high school mentally, and they see the rich people as the cool kids, and they want to be friends with the cool kids. Like
that's actually really true. I saw a video on TikTok, I think this morning actually, where it was like a girl talking about like the biggest crime of suburban America was it created this like class of middle-aged white boys who stopped maturing at that point. Like they got a good test score. They won an award in 8th grade for being like the highest test score in the school. And they stopped emotionally developing at that point. And they stopped learning new things at that point. So if it wasn't for Miss Anderson's 3rd grade class, like then it's not true. And I was laughing my ass off because yeah, it is entirely true. And the way they talk about having like a European heritage. And I'm so proud of my European heritage. I'm like, there's no such thing as European heritage, right? Like Europeans hate each other. Like you're in Spain now. Call a Spaniard a Frenchman. Tell me what happens. Tell me what happens, right? Go to Austria and say, hello, German. Like, it's not going to go as well as you think. You're not going to walk into Lithuania and be like, how about those Danish? Like, how about like Finland and Denmark alone? Like, the history between... There's no such thing as European culture. That continent was at war for a millennia straight. Like,
yeah.
But the Roman aqueducts, so whatever.
Yeah, it's a problem.
I hate everything.
Anyway, we'll see how it goes with Luigi. It's Mario. Yeah. So he
I feel like I have to go buy a Super Mario shirt. Like Luigi's finally getting his day in the Super Mario franchise. Like he's always just been the other plumber. No, he's the hero now. Sorry, Mario. You and Princess Peach go on your way. We want Luigi and Baby Daisy. Why? Because we need a second son and a redheaded princess. That's what we need. Boom.
Oh my God.
Like, yeah,
that just happened.
Sorry.
Again, I don't condone murder, but I do condone the terrorism, I guess. I don't know. I condone CEOs sort of looking over their shoulder a little bit. I think you can only push people so far.
That's a funny thing to say out loud. I
It's
don't condone murder, but I do condone, I guess, the terrorism. Hello,
well,
NSA. That was Troy, by the way.
I don't think like I don't support murder. I don't think like I think these people should be hauled into court and face trial for what they've done to people.
Oh yeah,
You
no,
know what
I
I mean? I don't
100%
want.
like
I
I
don't just believe
understand
in
it.
like summary executions, but
Yeah. No, I totally
I-
understood what you were saying. I'm just saying it
yeah,
sounded funny. But I agree. Like, what this is getting the attention for is, remember when the Great Recession happened and like all the bankers who had ripped people off, like
yeah,
cost so many people like their entire livelihoods, their fortunes, their retirement, everything. Not a single motherfucker went to jail for that. Like, that was a global economic crisis. Their crimes impacted the entire
yeah,
planet, and they're doing it again. And the money they made off the last recession just bankrolled the new president that's coming in, which will cause the next fucking recession, which they want to do. And Donald Trump is like on record saying this, is he wants another housing market so he can scoop up properties for low, low prices when people get foreclosed on. That's who the working man just voted for. It's like the most absurd
yeah.
thing in the world to me.
That's
It's
what's causing
like,
rent to go up, not Joe Biden's.
seriously, it would be like French Protestants voting for Catherine de Medici. Like, and
Oh
like
boy,
5
you just blew
people
my
got that
mind.
joke. Yeah,
You just
5
blew my
people
mind.
got that joke. Yeah, that's it. So listeners out there, if you got that joke, I love you and let us know. I always tell the kids, I'm like, I'm so fucking funny if you know history. Otherwise, I'm just weird.
You are funny and weird all at the same time. It was. Did you see that video at Christmas? Who was that guy that was like, "Oh, Merry Christmas, you fucking poor bastards"? You know what I mean? Did you see that guy? He was like
I don't think I
mocking
saw
poor
that.
people. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll play it I'll put it in the post here. But
Yeah, there you go. Make it the
it was
outro.
just. It was just like it's one. It's just one thing. They really just don't even care anymore. It's really just a like let them eat cake moment. I remember when I was in high school, the Enron thing happened in California,
You were in high
and
school. That's right. You're younger than me. I was in college.
yeah. I'm like two
Yeah.
years younger than you, I think.
Yeah. So you were probably like what, a senior in high school
Yeah,
then, probably? Yeah.
yeah. I remember when that happened, and we had like rolling blackouts in California,
Oh
and that was because
yeah.
we flirted with the Texas system of like privatizing our grid, and Enron was managing like portions of our grid,
Oh
and
wait, that's when Arnie was governor and he like
yeah,
bankrupted
yeah,
California. If you
yeah.
need proof of how
The
bad
last
Republicans are, he bankrupted
the last
California.
Trump bankrupted a casino. Arnold Schwarzenegger bankrupted fucking California. And we were doing, pretty okay before that. But anyway, but I remember like we were going through these rolling blackouts, and it was like a serious fucking problem. And like, hospitals were blacking out, and people were dying and stuff. And I remember the recording of the Enron board was released, and it was a bunch of like dickhead frat bros, and they were all laughing about it. They were laughing about like the blackouts in California. And I was like, at that moment, you listen to that, and I was like, they were literally laughing about like old people having to sit in the dark and the cold and stuff like that. I was like,
I
wow,
know.
these people are just scum. Like they're just
Well, you
complete
saw
scum.
that with what's his face, Ted Cruz, right? When
Yeah, same.
yeah, exactly. Who was the Enron guy? I'm trying to remember his name now. The only one that got in jail in trouble.
I don't remember.
It's gonna come to me. Hold on.
All I can think of
He
is
was like
Madoff.
no, that was the other thing. It was a politician from Texas.
Well,
I
they're all from
remember his
Texas.
mugshot. Remember when he had like the really funny
I don't remember.
mugshot? Oh God, if anybody in the world listening remembers, let us know because
I'll
I
look it
can't
up and put
think
that
of
in the
his name.
notes too. Yeah.
Um,
But anyway, so it's just it's bad. It's really bad. Like the class war has been declared. The radical revolution has been declared, and it's going the other direction. Like we're in the middle of a right wing revolution. We're in the middle of a Putinization of an oligarchization of the United States, and it sucks. It sucks. And it's sooner or later, something's gonna happen. You're gonna push people over the edge.
well, the
It's just
funniest part
the
is,
society is coming apart, Cathy. It's
I
falling
know.
apart.
Well, the funniest part to me is that the angriest people are on the right now, right? The angriest people are the ones who voted for these terrible
Yeah,
oligarchs because
yeah,
they bought the con.
right.
They're angry, irrational, and poorly educated. Okay, these are things that we all know to be true. When irrational, angry, and poorly educated people feel like they've been conned, what's going to happen?
Yeah,
Well, they're going to get dangerous. They're going to get deadly, but they're going to turn on them. And they already did. You saw it really quick, like the civil war on Twitter that broke out between like
that was hilarious.
the MAGA hats and the Elons of the world. Like, it's already starting and they're not even in office.
I
And
can't
Elon Musk
wait.
is not going to be quiet about his fuckery. He's going to advertise it all over Twitter. So, like, when MAGA turns on MAGA, when Donald Trump loses his base because of his billionaires, like, he's going to do tyrannical violent things. He's promised to do tyrannical violent things, but he's going to be then doing tyrannical violent things to his own voters he betrayed. So then the ones that hadn't turned on him yet will watch him turn on. Like, we just have to sit back and watch at this point.
I absolutely can't wait for the disappointment. I can't wait till he doesn't solve all their problems magically in the first month. I can't wait till he starts doing shit that they consider to be a betrayal. It's gonna be like Christmas. We're gonna monitor all of it and we're gonna report on every single
just gonna
promise.
sit in my house and like watch the fuckery. And we should write a book. Troy, we should start writing our book. We should write our book about this slowly but surely. We should do this.
We've been trying to write a book for years.
I know. That's what I was just going to say. Like, you and me have been talking about writing a book together for a long time now. I think it's time. 2025 is going to be my year, right? I've decided.
Year of the books.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Because I don't know if you guys have all noticed out there in podcast land, but Canon's been struggling for a little while. Like, I had a cloud over my head. I had a lot of fucking, weird shit going on in my world. Depression is real, man. But I feel like the cloud is lifting a little bit. I'm coming out of it, and I'm feeling a little bit more motivated. And Troy has been very wonderful putting up with depressed Canon. Depressed Canon has not been fun. But we should write our book. What should we write our book about? Let's ask our follower. What should we write our book about?
We had a literal goddamn outline. We did this every year. We're like, we're gonna write a book.
But we're gonna do it this time.
And then we forget about it. And then it's
like, because I never write it in my planner, but I got a new planner this year. Okay, here's what I did with my planner. I bought an undated one. So, because usually what happens is like ADHD, right? I'll use the planner and then I'll forget about it for a couple months, and then I have 2 blank months and I feel stupid, so I leave and I forget. But this is undated, so if I forget for 2 months, I can come back and it's fine. I didn't waste any paper. So it's gonna happen this time, Troy. It's a very pretty planner and it has stickers and everything, and I got markers and it's gonna be great. So we should make goals and deadlines for ourselves. This is what we will do. Troy should boss me around, guys. Troy should give me deadlines that I have to submit pages to him.
Yeah, maybe you need some structure, structured organization.
No, I do. I joke. Like, if I had a personal assistant, I would have conquered the world by now. If I just had somebody to tell me, Cathy, pay attention.
Well, here,
I'd do it.
Yeah, I'll send you. We'll plan it out. I'll send you a calendar.
I'll give you a list of like my characters, and you can look and tell me which one you think sounds the most interesting to start with.
Okay. Speaking of oligarchs and Trump, so we have Trump, and Cathy has thoughts on, speaking of Europe and invading people. So Trump's running around saying he's not even president yet. He's running around talking about all the territories that the United States wants to get their hands on. He's back talking about Denmark again. I'm not even gonna get into the like conspiracy shit of like how he's just working for Putin on that one. How much Putin would love to have Canada and Denmark so that Putin could control the entire Arctic. But she's
billions of gallons of oil.
Yeah, the billions of gallons of oil. So he's talking about buying Greenland again. Denmark already told him to go fuck himself the first time he did that. They're so spooked because Denmark is on the Baltic. They share a water border with Russia. Very real. The threat of Russia attacking the Baltic states is very, very real. Those people are spooked. And now you have Trump talking about taking Greenland again, which is a territory of Denmark. Greenland has militarized Denmark. It's a community of like 70,000 people. They've dumped like $1 billion into beefing up their military presence in Greenland, because now the legitimate, the Danish government is legitimately having to sit down and talk about what if they're invaded by Russia and the United States. God damn it. Anyway, but he's also talking about taking back the Panama Canal. Speaking of Jimmy Carter, I mean, that might just literally be to shit on Carter's legacy. Like, that might be the only reason.
No, that has to do with Chinese trade networks, because China has built like ports, like, how like we go in there and we steal countries and use their stuff. Well, China goes in and build stuff next door. So they have like a couple of ports right next to the Panama Canal to make it cheaper for them to use the Panama Canal, which is making it cheaper for them to sell their goods in general. And Donald Trump is mad that China wins at anything, so he wants to just go steal the canal back. I'm like, you could do what they did and build some ports and invest in the country and therefore have better outcomes. But no, I guess you just want to steal all the
China
land
has
because
been quietly
territorial
investing.
expansion.
China has been quietly and not so quietly investing billions into Central and South America and Mexico for years now, and they are way more on China's team than they are on our team. So yeah, you could, instead of being a dick, you could just, invest in these nations and develop better relationships with these nations. Something that would have been on the Jimmy Carter school of governance, but in Donald Trump's
too.
Yeah, in Donald Trump's world, we just learned about the Panama Canal 3 years ago. We think it's cool, and we want it. We want it back. Wait, why did we give it up? Why did we give it up? We didn't even. This dude didn't even fucking know what the Panama Canal was until his first term. I fucking guarantee you that.
He probably knew what it was, but he didn't know it was built. He probably just thought it was like a natural canal. He probably has no idea that it's like we literally stole a country, dug a giant fucking hole.
We created the country. We created the country of Panama. Right. It was part of Colombia.
And Nicaragua, yeah.
We fostered a Panamanian revolution because Colombia wouldn't give us the fucking canal. We said, okay, we are going to create this country called Panama that is now a separate country that we can own a huge chunk of just so we can build a giant canal through your country. And oh, by the way, you don't have any control over it. We control it. Jimmy Carter gave it back to Panama in 1977.
Yeah, well, he signed it
over.
Yeah,
he signed it back over to Panama. Right thing to do. And now
I think it was like Trump, a 20 years, like a 20-year.
99 was the official. 1999 was it was under Clinton. Was like officially switched over.
Yeah, so like the treaty was signed with Carter and like what's the word I'm looking for here? Executed. There we go. During But yeah, no, it's just weird. But the Panama Canal is really cool, like the way it works. So if like you want to go on YouTube, listeners, and just look up Panama Canal, like the way they like lift the water and the boat, it's really fucking cool. It's like an engineering marvel, to be sure.
I just can't get over it. We told the Panamanians we were going to fight for their freedom. We were going to give them freedom from the Colombians. They were going to have a whole cool new country. All they had to do was sign over the paperwork to give us the Panama Canal. They did all that. They got their country, and then we basically stabbed them in the back.
And we were like, but you know what? This is profitable. Same thing like we did with Puerto Rico. They're like, wow, you're making a lot of money off of the rum industry. You're a really good economy. Let's steal your country and enact prohibition.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. So anyway, so what are your thoughts on this? So Trump, so he's also talking about making Canada. The really creepy one is Canada, because he's talking about making Canada the 51st state. Really talking seriously about it, and the Trump state media on Fox people are just running through the talking points, talking about how Canada wants that. They've started doing the really creepy state TV stuff that like they do in Russia, and they did back in Nazi Germany and stuff like that, where they just start like formulating a narrative that's completely untrue about another people. Like Canada wants us to. Canada has, they've been doing this for years, talking about how Canada's healthcare system is terrible and everybody wants to come to the U.S. for healthcare. Now they're spreading this lie that the Canadian government is collapsing and they want to be the 51st state. They want to be part of the United States. Like, it's creepy as fuck. It's weird.
Like, it wouldn't be.
You are a Canadian, so tell me.
I know. That was my exit strategy, man. He's taking my exit strategy from me. But first of all, the idea of all of Canada becoming the 51st state is the most ignorant thing in the world, because there are 12 fucking provinces, like essentially states within the Canadian country, right? Like, so if Canada became part of America, it would be 12 new states. Okay, It wouldn't be one new state. Also, I would take 12 states coming out of Canada, because they're not going to be on your team, especially on healthcare. You're not going to get Canadians to vote for private healthcare, is what I will tell you.
I'm not an expert on Canadian politics, but I do know you would have probably 7 or 8 of those new states would be blue states, maybe even more, maybe 9.
I think like British Columbia for sure, Ontario for sure, Quebec. Who knows what the fuck would Quebec? Here's what I could. Oh, why do we have balloons?
You said Quebec. I got really excited for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, right. Well, here's the thing. Like, if they tried to do that, like, proof Donald Trump doesn't know fuck shit all about international politics is Canada has a hard enough time holding on to Quebec because they're French people. Like, Donald Trump, you really want to adopt an entire province of French Canadians? They're still French. I mean, they might be Canadian, but they're still French. I was like, you bring Quebec into the mix, you have a whole new set of problems. Like, I almost want to see Donald Trump try to deal with the French Canadians. Have fun with that.
You
These
know that
motherfuckers drink whiskey for
Trudeau and
breakfast and
the
ride
Canadian,
moose.
yeah, the Canadian government is laughing about that too. They're like, yeah, sure, man. Like, come
The
in and
Canadian
come
people
in
are
and deal
laughing. Like,
with our separatists.
these motherfuckers, like, have you ever seen a moose? Do you know how big a moose is? Like, Americans get scared of like black bears. Canadians are just like, oh wait, the moose is crossing the road. A moose could kill you, and they're just like, ah, it's a moose. Have you ever drank Canadian beer? Canadian beer is like fucking moonshine. These motherfuckers are not to be messed with. You're gonna go try and invade Canada. I'm gonna tell you, the last time America fought a war with Canada, they burned down the fucking White House and ate
Yeah,
Dolly Madison's dinner.
people
War of
people don't
1812, kids. War of 1812.
they
Canada is
don't
the only
teach it
country
that way
that's
in the U.S. Shockingly, that the War of 1812 was actually between the United States and Canada
I love it. I was
definitely
like,
won that one.
Canada is the only.
Or at
I
least
love
fought us
telling
to a
people like I'm
draw.
Canadian. Canada is the only country that has ever defeated America profound, like definitively defeated America in war. The only country, Canada. What did we do to prove it? Burn down the motherfucking White House.
The Canadians straight up marched into the United States and burned down the White House.
Yeah, they walked into the White House. They were like, "This is a nice." Before they burned down the White House, they ate the dinner that Dolly Madison had made for her
That's
family.
baller.
They fled the building and didn't eat their dinner. So the Canadian troops came in,
That's fucking
ate
based.
fucking dinner, and burned the fucking building down. Go ahead and try and take Canada, Donnie. I think that'll be fun because he wants to go after Canada and Mexico. He's like, speaking of America's Hitler, he's going to start a 2-front war with Canada and Mexico.
He's going after Panama and Greenland too. He's going to launch four simultaneous wars of conquest. And these were the people that were like the no new wars.
No more
people
wars.
That were like,
no more wars.
Donald Trump is the only one that can bring world peace. Like, you fucking morons. Oh my god.
Yeah, seriously. Because because even if he just goes after Canada and Mexico, right? Even if he just goes after Canada, that's going to piss off China. So China will support Canada and China will support Mexico. So if he starts a war with Canada and Mexico, China will bankroll both of those countries because
everybody will
benefit the most. Everybody will. It'll be America against the world.
Canada's a British dominion. You don't think the Brits are going to have something to say about that if he walks into Canada?
What did I tell you? Remember I said there's a king on the throne of England, and that has made people insane. Okay. And I put it, I put it in the outline. I don't know if you saw it. I was like, but we have a War of 5 Kings coming here, yes, right? And let's see if you agree with my kings, or maybe we need another one, because I have Charles III, the King of England, because the King of England has to be one of the kings, just has to, right?
Of course.
King 2, Vladimir Putin, because obviously. 3, I put as the NATO alliance, just because there's too many, too many, right? Like the NATO alliance, okay?
Is that like the Iron
4,
Bank?
Yes, that'll be the NATO alliance would definitely be the Iron Bank. Okay, I might have to change my outline here.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 4th king I have is as President Xi of China, right?
Sure.
So if we take out NATO alliance and we make them the Iron Bank, that works. So we have 3 kings. So who would our other 2 major players be in the War of 5 Kings?
Well, now it's going to be Trump. It will be one of them. And then...
Oh, yeah, I didn't even include Trump. God, I'm stupid. Okay, so...
And then the other one would be... that's an interesting thing to think about. Zelensky?
I thought Zelensky too, but then I also thought it's probably what's his name? Mohammed bin Salman, or Saudi Arabia.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Saudi prince, whose name I can't remember because they always
Salman.
Salman, there you go.
Mohammed bin Salman.
Yeah, there you go. So those would be our 5 kings, right?
Well, maybe like Bibi. Like maybe Bibi is involved in there somewhere too.
6 kings. 7 kings. We'll throw Zelensky in there. All right.
Yeah,
so
7's a good number. Throw in 7. Yeah.
The holy number, right? But then the teams would be Trump and Putin, which is so gross. Who does Saudi Arabia side with if everybody else is against? Because Saudi and America have a long-standing relationship.
Saudi's on Team Trump and Russia and Putin.
You think so?
In that conflict. Who else?
I guess so. But they would, in that scenario where it's Trump, Putin, and Saudi, Saudi Arabia would be the World War II America in that one, I think. I'll help you, but then I take over.
It's two blocks. It's US, Russia, and then China and everybody else. So anyone who's not US, Russia would be on Team China.
Well, that's what I
including
think. So, like,
Zelensky, including like the
yeah,
Europe.
like that's why I think the Saudis would turn on Donald Trump and Putin because from their perspective, putting America and Russia together, like they would immediately turn on Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia knows enough to know that, you know, because they'd be the odd
That's
man out in that one. They're the Muslim country to the, quote unquote
well,
religious Christians.
I don't think they have any loyalty to China though.
I don't think they do either, but they would have a mutual benefit in not letting America and Russia unite
The
to
U.S.
take over the
Russia
world.
Saudi alliance. I mean, that's total.
That's ball
Global.
game.
That's
Yeah,
total
that's ball
global
game.
energy dominance right there, at least.
Yeah, and that would be ball game,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying. And I don't think Saudi Arabia would want to be in a position that they would have to depend on Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump to be reasonable, right? Because once they're on a team with those two, they're outnumbered, right? So Saudi would use their oil money to I don't know. I don't know what would happen, but I do know. Actually, Saudi Arabia would probably work with the British Crown because there's history there too.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's gonna get really bad.
Anyway, it's gonna get bad, is what we're saying. We're fucking daydreaming war alliances here. That's how bad it's gonna be.
Well, but it's thinking going back to this Denmark thing. I mean, like they
Yeah.
they have been legitimately prepping for a Russian invasion.
Yeah.
And now on the Baltic, and now they're literally prepping for a potential U.S. invasion into Greenland. So it's very real for these people, and I don't know, and then you have stuff like CNN coming out and sane washing it and calling it like it would be the biggest expansion of U.S. territory since the Louisiana Purchase. I'm like, are you out of your mind? I
swear to God, I know. Like we should do a whole episode on the American media. I swear, because it made me mad. But it is also 10:55, Troy, and Liverpool plays at 11:30.
Yes,
so we'll have to talk about Elon next time.
So
I'm sure he'll come up plenty though.
But Elon fits into all this just because he's backing the neo-Nazis in Germany and the reform.
He's the Iron Bank, Troy.
Well, he's one of the kings.
Come on. Yeah. Oh, shit. You're right.
Maybe it's him instead of Zelensky.
What if it's like political kings versus corporate kings, and that would be wild. This is the book we're writing. You understand? We're outlining it right now.
All right. It's creepy.
I have to go watch Manchester United cry, everybody.
All right, Cathy. Thanks for a great conversation. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/justbuylesscoffee. You can subscribe, get access to bonus content, pre-show content. Watch the video content on YouTube, youtube.com/justbuylesscoffee. Wherever you're listening, download the episode. Download numbers are how we were ranked with other news and political podcasts. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy Feast of the Epiphany, Cathy. And to all my Catholic brothers and sisters out there. And everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. And we will see everybody next time. You've been listening to Just Buy Less Coffee, answering the deeper questions of American politics, featuring Troy Matthews at Keep Troy Blue and Cathy Cannon at Cannon's Fodder. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and X. All opinions are our own.